Hello, everyone. Welcome, everybody, to the Bridge Cultures. The Bridge Culture is a series of informative lectures about different cultures around the world based on the consciential paradigm. Today, we have the instructor Liliana Alexandre that is going to talk about the multiculturalism. So welcome, Liliana.
Hello.
Thank you very much for your presence here. I would like to present you. So Liliana Alexandre was born in Portugal. She lived in UK for 40 years. And now she lives in Foz do Iguaçu in Brazil. She's a volunteer since 1996, instructor, researcher, penta practitioner, and she's a volunteer from ISIC. So she has a lot of experience in these topics that today we are going to discuss. Please be free to bring questions to the instructor. She's going to answer along the presentation. Okay, so all yours, okay. Lily.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Virginia. Thank you, for this invitation to present in the Bridge Cultures, and also for the opportunity of discussing this subject that is so relevant, not just to me, but I think to all intermissivists, if we think of it. So if we can go in the first slide. No, before going in the first slide, let me just say that what we are going to discuss today is first I'm going to introduce the definition of multiculturalism, and also how multiculturalism is thought about today, in social and political terms. This is not a political lecture, but we need to understand this is a very hot subject in discussion right now on planet Earth in many different countries, particularly those countries that are receiving lots of immigrants from different countries around the globe. So we will start with that, and then we will also see what are the challenges of multiculturalism today from the intraphysical point of view. From that, we are going to talk about multiculturalism under the consciential paradigm, a wider view, a multidimensional view, and, some, hopefully I'll bring some food for thought so that each one of us can talk, identify in himself or herself about these subjects and bring more information, more self-awareness about it. And then finally, I will talk about my experience, and hopefully this also will bring in you, this interest in investing more in self-awareness of this trait, because it is a trait as well. Okay, so multiculturalism, a definition of it is the presence of or support for the presence of several distinct cultural, religious, and ethnic groups within society. It seems, from this definition, it's something simple. What about it? It's easy. But is it that simple? And what does this imply? So, as I was saying, we are going to first have a look at social and political multiculturalism, how it is understood today, and then the challenges, and then we can think about what is our commitment theoretically, with all the theories. What is our commitment to the values of multiculturalism? How do we apply them today in our lives on a daily basis? What is our level of affinity and practice with this concept? Can move to next slide, please. Yes. Okay. So here we have social and political multiculturalism. So multiculturalism is the view that cultures, races, and ethnicities, particularly those of minority groups, deserve special acknowledgement of their differences within a dominant political culture. So this is the status today. Thing is, when we talk about minority groups within a society, within a country, the needs and forms of recognition that they deserve can vary. So there are, in some cases, we need to value the contributions of these minority groups to the cultural life of the political community as a whole, as it happens in the UK and to some extent in the USA. We can view the demand for special protection under the law for certain cultural groups. This is another vertent, another variant. And then we can also think of autonomous rights of governance for certain cultures. And the example here is what is happening in the UK, United Kingdom, where, for instance, the Muslim communities want to be free to govern themselves as they've always done in their religion, in their countries of origin, using just the Sharia law. Is this good? Is this bad? Is this acceptable? Is this not acceptable? We are not going to discuss it here, but is something that deserves thought. Multiculturalism is a response to cultural pluralism in modern societies and modern democracies. And it's a way, it is viewed today as a way of compensating cultural groups for past exclusion, past discrimination, and past suppression. So if you think of groups from different religions in different countries, different, coming from different origins, therefore, and also if you think of our holobiography, it's easy to find that we have not just lived in different countries in past lives, spoken different languages, had different cultures, different religions, but also in some cases, if you're a white person today, it is important that you think when was it that you were black or that you were different color, yellow, indigenous, and how much did you you were excluded from the society where you lived in, or you were a perpetrator of discrimination and a perpetrator of oppression, and how much in this current lifetime as intermissivists we need to reconcile with the things that we've done wrong in the past. If we are past victimization, now it's time to reconcile. So most modern democracies today comprise members with diverse cultural viewpoints, diverse practices, and that bring diverse contributions to the society where they are living. So multiculturalism seeks inclusion of views and contributions. That is the idea. Multiculturalism respects differences. This is very important. And multiculturalism does not demand assimilation into the dominant culture. Because in the past and so far, what we have done with the minority groups in societies is very much you have to assimilate to the dominant culture of the country where you're living in. And this is still what happens in countries like USA and to some extent probably even Brazil. But in the UK, the view and the practice is different, and it's a little bit improved, as we will see further ahead. So it's not anymore about assimilation. So it's not the idea of the melting pot, but it's an idea of a salad. What the concept is called a tossed salad. You have a salad with all these different elements, and you toss it, you mix it, and you live together. Okay, if we can move on to the next slide. Thank you. So what are the challenges of multiculturalism today? It's a challenge to traditional liberalism and capitalism, or liberal democracy, because in liberal democracies, all citizens should be treated equally. This is a principle that sounds fantastically, that's marvelous, but it's a principle that is abstract. So all citizens should be treated equally under the law, but by abstracting the common identity of each citizen from the real social, cultural, and political and economic position and identity of the real members of the society, because they all have these days different identities, different economic backgrounds, different political backgrounds, different cultural backgrounds, different religious backgrounds, different social backgrounds. So saying that everyone is to be treated equally under the law is short. But this is the idea of the melting pot, or the assimilation, a unified national culture that is being practiced in the USA and Brazil. But this is leading to a tendency to homogenize the collective. We want everyone to be looking alike, so to speak, to be homogeneous as citizens, and assume a common political culture that all participate in. This is also what happens, for instance, in France, where people are still required to a certain extent to be assimilated by the dominant culture, and to abide by the common culture and common law, with disregard by their individualities. Now, this abstract view that we've just discussed ignores other political salient features of each smaller group, of each minority group. So, although claiming the formal equality of citizens, this view underplays the many ways in which citizens are not in fact equal in society. Because if you think, for instance, of black people, white people, do they get the same level of opportunities? No. If you think indigenous people and white people, do they get the same level of opportunities? No. So this equality is an abstract idea. So multiculturalism is more of a tossed salad, or should be more of a tossed salad. That idea, part of a whole, but the diverse members of the minority groups, they get to keep their identity within the collective. Equal rights, yes. Equal law for everything, yes. But the autonomous governance for certain groups is even necessary still, because some cultural groups, some ethnicities, some religions, like the Muslims, for instance, in the UK, they cannot withstand the pressure to assimilate into a dominant culture yet. So people have moved country, but they have not yet moved from their culture, their religion, and this is something that takes more time. Okay, we can move on to the next slide, please. Right. So if we talk about education and multiculturalism, the curricula from elementary to university levels, is being changed, revised, and expanded to include now the contributions of minority groups in society, and neglected cultural groups from the past. And this is very vivid already in the USA. So what this means is that now we are rewriting history, re-examining our role in history. So in past lives, remember your holobiography, in past lives, the things that we did wrong in the past and that need to be done right now, and that the reconciliations that need to be made, the inclusion that needs to be made. So we are indeed rewriting history to include the the inputs, the contributions of these other groups. So no more emphasis on the contributions of white European colonial powers, but the inclusion of contributions made by indigenous people and people of color present in literature, in art, in history, and philosophy. You know, all the different approaches brought by all these people from different countries, where we have been in past lives, where we have done, you know, not very good things sometimes. And now we need to compensate, we need to change, we need to move on, you know, and involve everyone and grow together, evolve together. Next slide, please. So what are the challenges of multiculturalism today in interphysical society, if you will? There's two groups, so to speak, of challenges. On the one side, multiculturalism privileges the good of minority groups. This is starting to happen, particularly in the UK. So the protection of minority groups is already undergoing. But when you protect minority groups within new democratic societies, this is a protection of the minority over the common good of the bigger group, and thereby potentially erodes the common good in favor of minority interests of the minority groups, and several groups, not just one minority group, several different groups. So when you protect just the minorities, then you are doing some harm to the global view of things. So multiculturalism undermines the notion of equal individual rights, thereby weakening the political value of equal treatment. So which cultures will be recognized? All? Some? Will there be a competition between the cultures of these minority groups within each democratic society? Will we benefit some and disfavor others? How are we going to do this? You know, are we going to focus on individual cultures? Will this reduce the coalition of a country, a bigger society with all the groups included, when you focus just on individual cultures? So these are questions that are being asked today, but that I think it's very important that we should ask ourselves too, and see what are the answers that we come up with. Multiculturalism raises questions for citizens, questions for public administrators, and questions for political leaders. So we all need to think about these issues, I think, and come up with ideas on how best to resolve them. Okay, we can move slide, please. So, okay, this brings us, sorry, let's go back to the previous slide, because I wanted to do an introduction here. This is an overview in the perspective of intraphysical society. But now let me just make a reflection here, and hopefully make this reflection with me. As I was saying before, we have lived in past lives in different countries, different continents, speaking different languages. And even more than that, if you go deeper in studying your holobiography, you'll probably find out that you, as an intermissivist and as an elder, you know, those that have, as Dr. Vieira coined this concept of elder, meaning that these are the people that have lived on this planet for longer. So we've been through different civilizations, different moments in history, different, cultures, religions, and all that. So we are elders. And if that is so, this means that we exerted leadership more often, in more lives. And so we have more responsibility as well. But we also have in our baggage multiculturalism. Because of that, If we speak different languages, that's because we've lived in different countries before, not just because of this lifetime and the languages that we have learned in this lifetime. If we have affinity with different cultures, we probably have lived there before. And then there is one interesting thing when I was preparing this lecture that came to mind. There is a word in Greek that is called metek. The word metek means, it comes from ancient Greece and means someone that was not a citizen of the polis, that was not a citizen of the city-state of Athens. So we are all meteks. We also, it came to mind this question. Even the social classes in past civilizations were composed of multiple individuals coming from multiple cultures. Even if the lowest of all classes was slaves, so slavery exists for still, centuries and centuries back, and the slaves were coming from different countries, different cultures, different religions, different continents sometimes. So this has happened in Egypt, in ancient Greece, if you think Roman society, and if you think all the empires in which we were involved, including the Roman Empire, the last being the British Empire, which has was just 100 years of life, but which was the biggest empire on planet Earth, involving 53 countries, countries as big as Canada, India, continents like Australia, many countries in Africa, Egypt. So all that was the British Empire, and it represented 1/6 of the planet Earth, both in territorial and geography and number of citizens, number of people. So this is a lot of multiculturalism. But look, multiculturalism is in the basis of universalism as well. So what we did wrong in the past, we now can change, do right, and move on towards universalism, because multiculturalism is the basis. When I was thinking of this word metek, it also came to mind that there was this singer in France, very famous in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, and he died just recently. He was called Georges Moustaki, and his most famous song was Le Metek, so the foreigner. And Georges Moustaki was born in Egypt, in Alexandria. So his parents had the most famous and biggest bookshop in Alexandria. And his parents were Jewish. His parents were Greek. And then they sent him to a French school, and then he immigrated to France. They all immigrated to France, I'm not sure. But, Georges Moustaki learned Arab, Egyptian, Greek. He learned later other languages, French, Spanish, English. So polyglottism has also a big role to play in this multiculturalism concept, right? And this type of guy, this is just an example, this is the kind of person that you find the most in London, in the hot, that hot spot, that hub that London is, which is not just a cosmopolitan city like in the USA, New York and many others, but in London there are 500 languages spoken. So that tells you that there you have a little bit of everything that is, in the world, every culture, every religion, every ethnicity. And also that we all live together quite harmoniously most of the time because of this tossed salad this mix. All the neighborhoods are mixed. There are no ghettos. And if there are any, they are made by the people from these minorities. They are not made by the English society. It's not that it's perfect, but it's a better approach. Just that means better way. And when in living in London, either when I was at work or when I was giving classes in conscientiology, what I found out is that I was in the middle of groups of exactly these multiple countries, cultures, and religions. And sometimes in the classroom, I had like the Greek student that was born from a Greek father and a German mother, and that his grandparents also had two different origins on the mother's side, and then on the father's side as well. So people are already a product of multiculturalism. And even if you think, okay, but I generally in my classes, the English were the minority. You had people from Egypt, from Liberia, from South Africa, from Greece, from many different countries, and the English were the minority. But even when you think about it, and today there you can have DNA testing, for instance, there is no such thing as pure races. We are all mongrels, as the English say. We are all mongrels. We are all, we don't have a special breed. We are a mix today, and that mix has come along all your holobiography. So let's regain this information and become more open to these differences, this mix that we all are. I used to say to my mom when I was very young, in the future, there will be no white race. So no, don't be proud of it, because the future is about melting everything, mixing everything. And the future has already started. So let me then, if you will, let me discuss about my own experience with multiculturalism, and hopefully you will think about yours and you will go deeper in the study of your holobiography. Right, so it's a bit small, but okay. So what is my early personal experience? From a very early age, I had the notion that I had been born in a new country with a new language, in a new family, and with a new body. So that was a lot of newness to deal with and to get adapted to. And sometimes when things didn't go very well, I used to think, why did I choose to be born in this country, in this family, speaking this language that I don't like the sound of, and this new body? Why all this newness? And we know today that some of us have already some freedom to be able to choose together with the help of the evolutiologist, obviously, to be able to choose where you're going to be born, and that is more suitable for your proexis. So I had this notion, and I also had this initial foreigner syndrome. That is a concept by Professor Malu Balona, and she has a book about it. So this foreigner syndrome means that you have this nostalgia, this sort of banzo for something that you don't know what it is. You just feel this, this sadness, this thing that it's kind of, I don't belong here. I am a stranger in this nest. My values, my principles, and my culture is different from that of my parents. So why? Why is this happening? Obviously, foreign syndromes are things that, challenges that you need to overcome. But some people, they live with certain syndromes their whole life, which is not good. It's pathological. So we should try and overcome this syndrome. And I sure did try to overcome that and managed to. And the first thing was, adaptation to all this newness. And also this reflected on my early decisions. One of my early decisions, okay, let's make the best of all of this newness and let's explore it further for instance, to be able to appreciate more the new language, I started reading a lot, not just about history, about many different subjects, because I always loved books. So I read a lot of literature initially, some old literature like Essa de Queiroz, and a lot of modern literature in Portuguese to get used to the idea of the language and the sounds of the language. And I started writing when I was 13. So I started writing poetry and play with the words. And then I went on to write other essays and things like that to get used to the language. And a friend of mine was asking me the other day, so now you like the language? I say, no, I still don't. Sorry. But I'm perfectly used to it. And obviously it's my mother tongue, so I can express myself well in this language, which is not to say that is my affinity. But there was a reason. I was probably born today. I understand that I was probably born in Portugal to get in touch earlier with conscientiology, because it is very clear for me from the intermissive course that I came in this lifetime to deal with conscientiology and to deal with the internationalization of conscientiology, so spreading the information worldwide if I can, in all the languages that I speak, and I speak in different levels. I have a knowledge of 9 different languages. So that's your polyglotism, which is speaking more than 3, right? Try to communicate was always my initial thing. I wanted very much to travel around the world, preferably go east because I missed India. And I want to go to Tibet and Nepal and China and Mongolia and Japan and all that. I felt affinities with all these cultures, which tells me also about holobiography. I felt affinity with the countries in the Mediterranean, which tells me also about holobiography. And I wanted to be able to communicate with people in their own language if possible. So it was at school, we had to learn 2 or 3 extra languages. So I started learning English when I was 10. And then at school, I learned also 2 years of French, 2 years of German, which is very little because German is a very difficult language. And then I learned with the person I consider my second father. So that was my first boss. I started working when I was 16, and my boss spoke 6 languages. So I learned Spanish and Italian just by listening to him on the phone, speaking with our suppliers. And then he started, asking me, now you pick up the phone, now you do, now you talk with them. This easiness of speaking other languages, it's like, on one side, it's like a mental workout. If 2 languages, the second language, when you learn the second language, is easier and faster than you learn the first. When you learn the third, it's faster than the second, and it goes on and on. It's just a matter of practice. It's just a matter of going to the gym here. But also it tells you about your holobiography and your multiculturalism, really. So another thing that I used to do from quite early, before my 25 years old, when I was still living with my parents, was this meditation, the 3-hour immobility technique. I only came to know that it was a technique afterwards in conscientiology because Dr. Valdevier wrote about it. But for me, this was innate, as was meditation. I never read about meditation, but I practiced it. So what I did was I would sit down on my bed, with the crossed legs in yogi position, and I would stare in the horizon, in the fields beyond my bedroom window, and I would stay like motionless there with the eyes open, but always staring for hours, 2 hours, 3 hours. And that is how actually I downloaded the cons, the unities of consciousness or lucidity from myself as a consciousness, information that we call innate ideas, information also from intermissive course, all these ideas that My mom then used to call me, used to ask me questions. She was the only one asking questions. And you say, how do you come up with these strange ideas? You know, because I had these ideas. We don't have just this body. At least we have one more body, the one with which we do projections, that at the time I called dreams, for lack of a better word. Uh, so if we move into other dimensions, there isn't just the interphysical dimension. There isn't just one dimension. There are many. There are different ones. And if that is so, there is life after death, because death is just moving dimension. So that was very clear to me. That was one of my several innate ideas. And if that is so, then we had past lives. So that was all very, very clear. And as I say, now that I have more time and I am going deeper into the study of my holobiography, that very much reflects your process. It's all a process. It's all a progress. All along, you learn about this multiculturalism, and you practice this multiculturalism, and you walk, so to speak, towards universalism. Other things that helped, so polymathy, when you start gaining, when I was reading all these books, I read my first books that I bought when I was 16, when I started working, were books about the Italian Renaissance and the English Renaissance. And I felt a lot of affinity. And but then I went on reading from Russian literature, and many different subjects, from archaeology to philosophy, psychology. I started with psychology books when I was like 12 years old or something, because these were my mother's bedside table books. And I started, going in the room, doing the cleaning, doing the dusting, and reading the books. And she used to go, why do you spend so much time cleaning my room? Because I was reading and I was learning. So all these different interests, they are also not just interests, all these polymathy and polyglotism, and they are not just interests of this lifetime. They are interests going on for many lifetimes. It's a progress, it's a process. And also the thing of translation. I started translating things early. I studied philosophy, and in those days when I was studying philosophy, it's either you knew English, French, and Spanish, and you could read the books, or if you didn't know these languages, there were almost not many books around in Portuguese. I also studied there a little bit of Latin and a little bit of ancient Greek, because it was important to understand the concepts, the ideas of Plato, for instance, to read the Greek text together with the translation in English and compare translation. But that is thinking about translation in a strict sense. Translation is not just about translating something from one language into the other. In a more lacto sensus, as Dr. Valdeviera wrote about it in the Encyclopedia of Conscientiology, and for those who can access to it, if you have the Portuguese. Unfortunately, we only have an encyclopedia in Portuguese so far. To those who have access to it, you will find verbiage on translation. And he views translation as I view translation. Translation is also bringing these ideas from the extraphysical dimensions, including the mental dimension, into the intraphysical and putting in practice in the intraphysical. This is also translation, parapsychic translation. Okay, so developing further from this initial personal experience, some people feel horrified when I say this today, but I still say it. I have a poster of Che Guevara in my bedroom. And no, it was nothing very aggressive or bellic about it. It was a reminder for me. And I used to say this to my mom, this time revolution is inner revolution, individual revolution, because I've learned a lot in my intermissive course. The guy was beautiful, but that was just a reminder of what revolution means today. It's inner revolution, individual revolution, or evolution, if you prefer. But it's all about, self-awareness, self-study, self-change, self-recycling, and that will change the environments where we live, multidimensionally speaking. So I always had this strong desire to evolve. It's kind of part of my matatozine, right? Evolving. And I also wanted to travel the world. It's already discussed. And I also always wanted to live abroad. The first time I went to London I was 19, and I went there as a tourist, naturally, and I spent there 2 weeks. And then when I came back, I cried the whole day. And my mom asked me, "Why are you crying?" And I said, "Mom, because I don't belong here. I belong there." Kind of, I found where I belong, finally. And she said, "No worries, one day we'll live there." And so I did, many years later, but I did. So all this inner traveling, this self-awareness has always been very, very strong. Innate Ideas as well. So it's like the Oracle of Delphos, know thyself, know yourself. This was always very important to me. All these reflections, all these readings, and the writings, and all that. So Syriaxology and holobiography, I think, could be a must for all of us, because the more we understand ourselves from our past lives, the more we understand ourselves today, the more we understand our proexis, the more we understand the reconciliations that we need to do, what we need to recycle, what are the tools that we have to recycle. Because obviously you start identifying things as important as, for instance, your strong traits, but more important than that, your mega strong trait. The teacher Diana Ross published recently this book, Megatrafor. So that's mega strong trait, and she's translating it into English, fortunately. This mega strong trait is supposed to, as a concept, is supposed to be a strong trait that you've carried on, from many past lives, in your whole biography, from many past lives. And today it's kind of the tip of the iceberg. And this is your mega tool for reconciliation, for interresistance. And it's important that you find out which one is yours. Now, the mega strong trait being the tip of an iceberg, there's the iceberg underneath. The iceberg, as Diana Ross explains, is the clusters of strong traits that are associated with the mega strong trait. And I've already discussed this with her, and I'm writing a little bit about it as well. You may discover that you have more than one mega strong trait. You may discover that you have 2 or 3. I've discovered 3 so far, and these are very powerful tools, bring you a lot of energy, a lot of drive, a lot of motivation. You understand how you can use that, how you're using that, and how you can, without any dormancy, putting everything to work, and finally becoming this thing that we generally talk so much, being the mini piece of the maxi mechanism, of the interexistential maxi mechanism. So if we can go back to the...
So Lily,
yes.
Very interesting. I would like, you have a time, just only to know that there are some people that are here, Marcelo, Paula, Sousa, Regina.
Thank you for coming.
as well. Anna Ruiz, that is helping us with all the things, and Wagner strategy. Okay, so I was listening to you, and I was very curious to know if you want to share with us what are your mega strong traits that help, and it is, I think it should be logic that it is related to the multiculturalism.
No, that's the thing. That's the thing that you learn. Multiculturalism is a strong trait. And in my case, and hopefully in the case of many of us, it's a mega strong trait. It becomes all this process, all this growth along your holobiography. When you develop it and you put it in practice, because the difference, the big difference many times is what you already know, but you know in an intellectual kind of way, and what you actually are practicing of what you know. And it's when you put these things in practice that you find out that, okay, here I have initially the first mega strong trait that I identified in a consultancy with consecutivos, because consecutivos is my favorite CI by affinity.
But first, I guess ISIC is your first one.
Of course. Of course. But then they have all these consultancies that help you a lot in a study, going deeper in the study of your holobiography. So the first mega strong trait that I found out is pioneering. And I'm writing about that. So I think that many of us have this strong trait, if not all of us, maybe in different levels. Maybe today is your mega strong trait. Maybe today is a little bit more, but it's up to you to find out. Don't believe in anything that I say, right? Have your own experience. So one of them is pioneering. The other one is multiculturalism. And the other one is the thing that I will discuss at the very end, because it's very important for all of us. And I will discuss at the very end of today's lecture, if you don't mind.
Okay, no, I don't mind. And another thing, what do you think about adaptability? Do you think you have this ability to adapt to any environment as well, intraphysical and extraphysical? What do you think about it?
So we will discuss this further in this lecture with the slides as well. But it's like that. So in the beginning, I had to adapt with a lot of new things. So that made me be more adaptable. So I had to adapt to new country, new family, new language, new body, da da da. So this made me more adaptable and gradually more flexible to differences, and accepting my own difference, being different from my parents, from their Holocene, and being different from the Holocene of the country where I was born, and all that. So that helped a lot in adaptability and flexibility. So that's a very big plus. From that moment on, you can kind of gradually just increase this level of adaptability. And when you move, for instance, to a different country, this obviously has to expand a lot, flexibility and adaptability. Otherwise, you won't be able to live in that country for long, right? So because you are adapting again to new culture, eventually, new Holocene, new political and cultural environment, and sometimes economical environment, all that stuff. Another thing that helped me is that it's always been easy for me to make friends. And I have friends from many different countries, many different cultures, many different religions, many different social, economic environments, political environments. I have friends from blue blood and monarchy still too, the simplest of the simplest of the person, of the people, right? And this makes you able makes you have access to many different groups, intraphysically and extraphysically. So it's like you have this.
You can interact with
passport.
more and more groups, different groups.
You can act with more groups. The more you expand this multiculturalism and this notion of universal, the more you can interact with more people.
Yeah, and you can have, more capacity of assistance, because you can,
Exactly.
in this interaction, you can access different groups, and you can enter with your assistant.
That is the whole idea. Is to I started, assisting. Obviously, your first group of assistance is your own family, and you start with that. But then you grow and expand, expand, expand. I used to say to my mom, my heart is very big. Because they said, now you have to stay at home, you have to stay here. You have to. I say, no, mom, my heart is very big. There's many people in it, not just you. Kind of thing. And and it's all about relationships, and it's all about interassistance.
Relationships and interdependency, because some people are not able to think about moving to another country. It's like, oh, no, I can't do it. I depend on my family. Maybe affect with the
In my
affection.
case, this is just my example. It's not. This is just one example. Okay, I'm not saying do this. Okay, but in my example, it's like what I found out is that when I really want to move forward, like it's not moving cities, moving countries, moving everything,
Continents.
changing every continent, changing everything is just being available for the extra-physical team. Because when I left Portugal, I felt very much that the work that I had to do there had been done. And when I left now London, I felt very much that the work I had to do there had been done. So now I was it felt to me like, okay, finally you can go back home, because CIEC is very much, it looks alike in everything. It looks alike with the place where I was in the intermissive course. I had projections to the intermissive course, and the place, the round house like Tertuliario, and it was just white. But yeah, that's, even the green grass, the blue sky, everything. So it felt like, finally I can go back home, do an upgrade, do a deeper study of my holobiography, and move on. And move on into resistance.
Interesting. I didn't see this comment of Regina. She was saying exactly. Regina was thinking just in this point, maybe in moving to other countries, but okay, thanks. So people, be free to ask any question to Liliana.
Sure.
She's very open. So if you want to continue, Liliana, would you like to continue?
Yes. Okay. If there are any questions, just let me know.
Let's continue with this slide. It's okay?
Is that the next one? I think it is. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So what we have here, two beautiful photos. The one above, right? In this blue planet with blue skies and blue sea, which I absolutely adore. I absolutely love all this blue everywhere. And then underneath you have a photo of London and the Thames. Okay, and I've written there something that looks like a code. Openness, from the great outdoors to open doors and free access. What do I mean by that when this idea came to me? The first thing and the first strong trait that I think all intermissivists have, or if not, all need to grow, that is the basis of the basis of multiculturalism and of universalism and of megafraternism. The basics of the basics is consciential openness, abertismo consciencial, consciential openness. And this notion of consciential openness for me, it was, I could make a connection with this early on just by being in nature. And since childhood, I spent a lot of time by the sea. I still miss the sea a lot. And I feel one with the cosmos when I'm by the sea, when I'm in nature. And that when you feel very happy in one specific environment and in nature, that helps you to feel more open to everything, open to the new, open to new ideas, open to new people. And that's the basics of everything, you know, that's fundamental. Because from these outdoors, being out there in nature, feeling nature, connecting in nature, observing nature, I could feel these ideas. There was these ideas coming as well, because I also had many ideas that came during my periods, you know, in nature during summer by the sea. And I used to spend all summers by the sea. And lots of these ideas also came, and this feeling of openness, which gets you ready to open doors, to open windows to the new, right? To these different cultures, different religions. For instance, I studied philosophy, as I was saying, and I studied things that I used to be good at, like philosophy of religions, philosophy of culture, and even ontology, which is a part of philosophy. Because people many times have this idea philosophy is just about knowing how to live well in society. This is an idea of people that didn't study philosophy. Because if you do, and I think I did, you know, even in ancient Greece, there are many, many facets, many subdisciplines of philosophy. And for instance, ontology, for me, it's very interesting because ontology is about the being, is about being. It's you know, where you ask these questions: who am I? Where do I come from? Where do I go after this? This is not something that came with conscientiology. This came with philosophy. And one of the things that Dr. Valdo Vieira used to say is that it would be a good thing for people to study philosophy, history, philosophy. You understand a lot, some of the ideas much better. It helps you. And also, it's probably connected also with your holobiography. So this idea of ontologies is also about knowing what is there, what is out there to know, and how can me as a consciousness know it. And obviously, in philosophy, you don't have all the answers, but you have in conscientiology a lot, many more answers, because you add to it the multidimensionality. And when you add multidimensionality, you expand everything like that, you know, the understanding of things. So from these times and these summers in the outdoors, you know, to opening all these doors and all these windows to the new, you gradually gain what we were discussing. We gain free access to different groups, minority groups, many different groups, you know, from different countries. I've listed the other day the people I came across in London, either you know, professionally or giving classes in conscientiology. Even if just one person of each country, and there were more in some cases, even if just one person from each country, these are people that are in my Alencology, and they represent 70 different countries. So if we are all interconnected in a net, imagine how each person connected to their other groups, you know, can expand information, you know, ideas, you know, and grow in interresistance, in understanding, in multiculturalism, and hopefully, you know, in universalism, in mega fraternism. So That is the idea. So you get free access in these intraphysical groups, but you also get free access extraphysically. Then you get projected in many different occasions, in different countries, speaking different languages, different people for different situations. And many of these situations, obviously, they are all connected with intersystem and with conscientiology, right? Okay, so this, therefore, multiculturalism for me is very much about the tossed salad, getting together, living together with all these different groups and all these minority groups within societies and things. And how do you do that? How do you do that? For me, it's always been very, very important to try to understand other people that think in a way different than mine, and people that feel in a way different than mine. And I used to be always asking, what are you thinking now? What are you feeling now? Because I want to know. And I want to exchange and all that. And that is how you interact with other groups and with these minorities we've been talking about. Try to understand them, try to listen to them, try to empathize, be open to, and also to exchange ideas and to discuss ideas. And it doesn't mean that you are you all have the same idea. It is not good. It's good that you have different ideas and that you can discuss. This is what makes people and society rich, is all these different ideas, and so what is the main thing there, the most important thing there? It's obviously it's friendship. As Dr. Valdo Vieira spoke so much in his last couple of years here, it's all about friendship. So if you listen to others, if you empathize with others, if you discuss your ideas, your feelings with others, if you try to understand them, it's inevitable that you become friends. It's all through the good feeling, and it's all through friendship that we can actually do better and wider interassistance, multidimensionally speaking, not just intraphysical, but extraphysical. So if I can have my slide a little bit closer so that I can read. Thank you. So the tossed salads, yes. So at its best, it is all about inclusion, reconciliation, and friendship, right? Right. So if you move on to next slide.
Just one question. No, I was thinking about friendship, that I think is the most important thing to get a very good conviviality with others.
Conviviality is very important. You have to go a step further. Good conviviality is the basic, but then you establish friendship, links.
Yeah, and exactly, and this you go to the maxi fraternity. That is, you start with your family or with your evolutionary duo or your the people, volunteers, friends, and then you expand. So I think it's one of the ways of the universalings to establish this friendship with others. I think it's very important.
Yes.
And
Now,
then,
yeah, think of the intraphysical, right? All the conscience that you have around, all the consciexes, all the equipins and the equipexes.
exactly.
Think extraterrestrials. Think bigger all the time, and how you can connect and how you can establish links. These links have to do with this capacity that human beings have. Here's a little photo of the melting of the, not melting pot, the tossed salad that is London society. You have London today. You would think that you are in a different country, but no, you are in London, England, United States, United Kingdom, sorry. And you have there the London mayor, who is Sadiq Khan, he was born in England. He was born in London, in South London, I think. But he is Pakistani, and his parents are of Indian origin. And actually, there is, confirmed by Dr. Vier in 2014, there is a Serenissimus alive intraphysically in London today. And he is very much in charge of the corridor of interassistance with India and Pakistan. So it's very interesting that these days the mayor of London is also Pakistani with Indian origin, both from his father and his mother. And you see there on the photo the Muslim girls there, and you see people complaining, the Muslims complaining about democracy, saying that Islam is the answer, and that Europe is the cancer, So yes, we Europeans, or from Western world, we have a lot to learn. We have a lot to reconcile. We have a lot to interassist. But this interassistance is very much built through relationships as well.
Very interesting, Liliana, and if you can have this friendship with the Serenissimus, it's much better. we have here a question.
I have an idea, not being humble about it. I think I have contacted with him, so I'm very happy with that. Oh. So I've had a contact with this guy.
In UK, you are saying?
In London.
Yeah. When you were in London, yeah. Interesting. Because in a cosmopolitan city with a lot of people.
Yes, he's a very young Indian guy. Probably his religion is Sikh, so Sikhism. And he lives, or at least he lived in 2014 in Marylebone area. And I would dare to say that he came to classes of conscientiology to check us out.
Interesting. Someone from the group. So
someone to see what are they doing, what are they talking, are they doing this right? Are they teaching this right now?
We have a question here from Adina that could teacher talk about the relationship between multiculturalism and world state? Is any? Does multiculturalism lead to a better understanding of the concept of mondial state?
Yes, of course there is. So the multiculturalism I was saying is a strong trait, is something that we all need to develop, but it's at the basis of the universalism, and therefore it's the basis of the world state as well. If we want to live all together in one state in the future, we don't know in how many generations, in how long it's going to take, but obviously we have to take everyone in board, and it cannot be, the way I see it, cannot be by leveling everyone in the one culture. This is not how it needs to happen. You still have to respect all the differences and find the midway so that everyone can combine. And I think in that respect that, with all the things that are still wrong and that still need to be changed, that with, again, London with these 500 languages spoken there and stuff, it's a big lab, because there you have even, you have portals to the baratosphere that you learn to recognize, but you also have these corridors of interassistance to other continents, like with the Serenissimus that you have there. So London has a vocation for universalism. So something that like that tells me that probably the world state, it has to be that way. We have to all interconnect that way, through relationships and accept our differences and benefit from our differences. Because that's the thing. If you level everything to one only idea, this is not good. This is stagnating. If you want to evolve, you need all these counterpoints. You need all these differences. You need sometimes some clashes are positive. You need to learn to live together. That's how I think it
Correct.
works.
I would like to ask you a question about one thing that you told before, but I would like to remember that you have you present the Brit cultures about UK. So if someone wants to watch it,
Yeah,
it's available in ISIC's channel YouTube. One of the things
yeah,
that you told before is that you like a lot Mongolia, India, that you are very connected, and now you live 40 years in UK.
14.
So your past lives have this.
Yeah, yes. So I am studying again, doing lots of courses with consecutivos and studying a lot of information started coming from my holobiography. So I have things to research. Yeah, at least I may have been, present in at least once every century. So there's a lot to research, but you have to start with something. And during Penta, I was going to study something else, but I was doing the School of Consecutive Personality in Consecutivos. And I was going to study because at the end of the school you have to present your research, a character you're researching. And I was going to do that about a guy from the French Revolution. But then during Penta came a name and I thought it was funny. I had never heard this name before. And then 2 weeks after, I'm terrible sometimes, only 2 weeks after, I went and I Googled the name. And then, and then I had this surprise. It was an English woman that lived in Victorian England in the Victorian era. And apparently, okay, so if this is something that I have to investigate, I'm going to investigate, I'm going to research. And the first book that I opened from the 50 books that she wrote was, and I started just picked up a little bit of a text. And that's a technique also in these studies. So I opened a book and I started writing something that I used to write about when I was 13 with the same ideas. It's oh my God, you know. And then obviously start going, and this is a study that takes years, but mine is just months old. But yeah, I already read like 4 or 5 books, and I have a few others that I'm in the middle of, and I'm already writing about it. And this woman had a connection with different countries already. So she was born in Norwich in England, but she traveled a lot in the USA. She was an abolitionist. She was also a woman fighting for human rights, women's rights to education and equality, and which is very dear to me, even in this lifetime. I've still done something in these areas as well, right? And also, she traveled in Egypt, in India, and she wrote about this because people ask me, "Oh, is this so?" She was a novelist. No, she was not a novelist. She wrote only one novel out of the 50 books and the hundreds or thousands of articles and letters that she wrote. Because the first books that she became famous for were about political economy. And she is today considered the first sociologist. So she wrote a book about how to observe societies, how to observe the different countries, and so that you can actually study them and study the difference and the similarities and all that. So that makes a lot of sense to me, right? That makes a lot of sense to me. And she wrote lots of travel books as well. So all this traveling that she did, she wrote about society in America, for instance, these 3 volumes. So she wrote about many different things, travel books, poetry. I wrote poetry for 20 years in a row every day. She wrote poetry. She wrote children books. I also involved a little bit with children books. Now I'm not writing them, but I'm still involved with translating them. What else? So there's a number of different styles. She wrote about history of the UK, of the 30 years of peace in the UK and things like that. So she was a pacifist as well. And so, some interesting writings. The name of the lady is Harriet Martineau. And I'm writing now my autobiography. I was invited by a friend and then got inspired with two friends. And so I'm finishing that. And someone suggested that I should put her name there. And I did.
Yeah.
So it's kind of
very well. It's very connected with all the theme, the theme topic that we are talking right now. Very interesting.
Yes, and we had.
It's not the first time that you are talking about that.
Yeah. There's a mega strong trait in common, several traits, but one, the mega strong trait, which is the pioneering thing. So that's the approach. I've started writing my book, and that's the approach.
Okay, let's continue with your presentation.
Okay, so we are nearly close to the end. So now we had this photo. Yeah, I can change to the next one. Right. So as I was saying initially, think big. Always a good thing. I had a picture in my house in Lisbon, which is this thing written by me in letters, and like the letters were running like think big. So how does multiculturalism links with mega fraternity and universalism? So we've already discussed that, right? Obviously, through multiculturalism, you realize it's not. We don't use the word fraternity, but mega fraternity, because fraternity still reminds us of the places when we were in the same religion, probably the Catholic religion or something, in past lives. But now it's about a mega fraternity. So it's not just about fraternity with those that have the same ideas with you, but with those that don't have the same ideas with you, don't have the same culture, don't have the same background, don't have the same studies, don't have the same religion, don't think the same way. That's mega fraternity. And also, it is multidimensional. And also, when we talk about multidimensional, I'm talking, as I was saying before, consciência, equipe, equipex, and also extraterrestrials, people from other planets, from other galaxies. We are not alone in the universe. And our mission today, our proexis, is probably, or at least to some of us, is probably, but probably to many, most intermediates, is not just about being national about your country. It's not just about being that small. And there's a lot of information also on the Encyclopedia of Conscientiology about these, lots of things that Dr. Valdo, lots of verbiage that Dr. Valdo wrote. Our mission, it's a lot bigger. Our mission is mission Earth, is the planet. It's not our country. It's not our city. It's not our neighborhood. It's the planet, at least. And if you see there in that map, you have the Milky Way, the galaxy where we are, and a very, very little dot there in the middle, which is not in the middle, is in the periphery, which is the sun. And we are just one little planet around that sun. So think big, because multiculturalism is at the basis of mega fraternity, is at the base of universalism, and universalism is also not about planet Earth. It's about everything, multidimensionally speaking. So again, I think that we all have, to some greater or less extent this strong trait that is pioneering. If we have an intermissive course, if we had access to an intermissive course, we are pioneers to some level, right? And it's all about inner revolution, individual revolution, evolution, if you prefer. If you don't like the other word, I want to rehabilitate a little bit the other word because it doesn't need to involve blood. Okay. In past lives, I have been in different times and places and civilizations that involved that, there were revolutions. Even in this lifetime, I was born in a country 20 years before the so-called Carnation Revolution, or the April Revolution that got us rid of 40 years of fascism. And in this revolution, there was no spilling of blood, right? It was a carnation revolution. So the people in the streets, among them my colleagues, and it happened close to where I worked, and my family was involved, both sides of the fence, actively involved. I had a couple of members of the family involved, both sides of the fence. We all lived together. We all lived very well. I had people that were royalists and people that were Republicans and people that were Freemasons and people that were, from left wing, right wing, state, against the state. We all lived together very well. We all love each other. And that helps us maybe to understand a little bit better multiculturalism and mega fraternity and universalism. And yeah, so it's all about evolution, right? And developing. That's the last note there. Developing accueil. Accueil is a French word that the English also use. The English use many French words. The English, the British, right? And it's a French word that means acolhimento, right? So that means welcoming, but accueil is a better word than welcoming, being welcoming. But that accueil involves, therefore, what we've been discussing. It involves relationships, openness, friendship. And one of the very first more lucid projections that I had when I was still in classes in conscientiology is I asked the helper, what am I going to do when I decimate? And the guy said, you are going to do acolhimento, okay? Because that's probably already a mega strong trait, and that's something that I already do in this lifetime. So in the intraphysical, so I can do that in the extraphysical too. And sometimes I have projections. That's what I am doing the other side, in the other dimensions with different groups. And it is about conscientiology. It's about the development with the evolution of the consciousness. And it's all based on this welcoming, welcoming with open arms, and then big hug that these days can only be virtual. Okay, if you move to the next and last slide, please. So I am very thankful for all these projects, for all these bridge projects, and to ISIC for, I'm very thankful for all the opportunities that I'm being given in this lifetime, in all the countries that I've lived in. And right now, as regards this Serenissimi, that I think it would be important to talk about here, I am very thankful to the Londoner. I've seen this image live of someone working with the energy and having the planet between his hands. And I'm very thankful, obviously, to the Reurbanizer, because we are all just very important tools, but we are tools in the, maxi mechanism, intersubstantial maxi mechanism, and in the reurbanization of planet Earth. So at least the mission is Earth. right? And I'm very thankful to all of you here also, that came today, and all those that will hopefully watch this afterwards. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you
Thank
for, thank you very much, Liliana. It was a pleasure. It was a very good presentation.
you.
Regina saying thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
And I think it was opportunity to expand the ideas about the other cultures and multiculturalism. And
Yeah.
just the
Oh,
last question to
yeah.
finish.
Okay.
What do you think? We live here in the cosmopolis, in the conscientiology. What are the benefits of living in different intermediates with different cultures all together? What do you
So,
think?
from what we've discussed in this lecture, obviously the benefits are huge of us being able to be together, work together, develop projects together, do this interassistance, multidimensional interassistance together. It's an incredible booster to one's autoproexis and also to the maxi proexis that we can do together, right? This is very invaluable, and then I always feel very grateful also for this, because finally, when we are out there, and as I was in different countries, I used to say I've been in the internationalization of conscientiology all my life. I've been
Yes.
yeah, all my life, but I've never had time to do self-research, not much of it, because when you're out there, you're focused on bringing in the internetivists and you give classes every week. So there isn't much more time left if you have to also work for a living. And now, finally, I was given this opportunity. Now, okay, you can come home and you can do some self-research, which is what I always wanted to do as well. So this is why I call it also an upgrade for the next intermission, right? Next intermissive period, and hopefully to be able to prepare a self-relay for a next life in this dimension. And I
Perfect.
invite you, all of you, to get deeper into your self-research as well. This will bring you many interesting things you probably
Of
went
course.
unnoticed, because there's things about you that go unnoticed. They may not go unnoticed to other people, but they know unnoticed to you. And therefore, if they go unnoticed to you, they are on the level. And you need to awaken these trafores, these strong traits, to put them in good use.
Yeah, we need to balance exactly self-research, volunteering,
We have
other
here
end of
another
life.
question
Yes,
from
we have here another question from our friend Sedao. Would you
Okay,
share any physical
thank you so
experience
much,
on that?
Lucy. Yes, only recently, just as an example, only recently, I had a couple of projections in Romania, and my friend Adina, I already told her about it. I think she's here. I already told you about it. Adina is Romanian, right? She lives there. I had a couple of projections in Romania with Romanian people, and we were in a hotel full of people, packed with people, and we were giving activities connected with conscientiology. I don't know who was giving this; it wasn't me, okay, but I don't know who was giving this lecture, I think, or a course. I'm not sure, but it was all packed, and on the same week, I also had a projection to Hong Kong. We have given conscientiology classes in Hong Kong before. We have given classes in many different countries, including Macau, Hong Kong, China, Japan. But, I was in Hong Kong. There's been all this political unrest and social unrest. And I was there, and I witnessed a situation, and I was there to surely taken, by helpers to assist in that situation as well, because obviously you never go alone, and you get these free rides, so to speak, from equipages, from extra-physical helpers that take you places to do things that sometimes you don't remember exactly what you've done, but you were there, you had that, you were open, you had this free access, and you were able to be there.
And it was funny because the other day we were talking about that in our meeting. So, and then someone told, "Oh, but I have a grandfather." They were from Romania, and I have our nephew. No, our what's the name? Our cousin is Romanian too because he was adopted, and I work with someone that was Romanian, a doctor in my work. So it's very funny that we think that the connections are very group karmic too, but the work is expanding, and Romanian is one of the places that there are a big group. So we're going to invite them to watch this video.
Very good, very good. That's
Okay.
great.
So I think we finished. I don't know if you want to say the last words because we are.
I just want to thank again everyone that is watching and everyone that is going to watch afterwards. Thank you for your participation. And if you have any other questions, or I would love to hear from you all. I would love to hear from you all in your ideas about multiculturalism and universalism too. If you want to share with us, this would be lovely.
Thank you very much again. We are going to share here the information. If they want for more information, they can join us in the www.isiccons.org. And we finish. So thank you very much. We will see all there next year with new bridge cultures. So wait until next year.
And this year we still have on the 27th of December, a Sunday as well, right? We have still one more presentation in the Bridge Writers with Dulce Dow, that she's here today. So she's going to talk about a very interesting theme, which has to do with what we've been discussing. It has to do with all our holobiographies, which is restorative writing. When you wrote something wrong in past lives and you need to rewrite this lifetime, and put it right.
To do the reconciliation, Perfect. So we'll watch Dulce Dow's bridge.
Yes.
Writer, so thank you very much, all of you, and we see all of you next month. Bye-bye.
Big hug.